Good morning, everyone. Welcome back again to the KSR YouTube channel. Appreciate all you guys watching the last video. Didn't expect that thing to go nearly as big as it did, but pretty awesome. But like you saw, we got to move the motor in Mullet. Yeah, sometimes you got to go backwards to go forwards. And before anybody thinks that I'm blaming the person or the shop that put that in there, guys, remember this thing was supposed to have a jet engine in the back of it. So the engine maybe being a little farther forward made more sense, because with a jet engine, if the front of the car ever comes up, the car would take off like a jet. So we didn't want that. So we're having to just go backwards a little bit, get the engine moved back. So while we move the engine back, I'm going to lower it down just a little bit to clear the hood, and I think we'll be in a lot better shape in a whole lot of areas. So quite a bit of extra work, but we're going to make it happen, and everything should be better. So while you're here, please click the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified every time we release a new video, and that way you'll see exactly when we release a new video about this project, as well as some of our other projects. You guys have seen the Vipers hiding back there in the background. Those are both owned by Lee Saunders, 2020 Trans Am SGT champion, which if you go to Trans Am's YouTube page, you'll see some of the season highlights. They just did this past weekend a virtual awards ceremony and a highlight reel for the whole season. So you can see a little bit of the highlights of what we did. I think we had 4 wins in 2020 in Trans Am en route to the championship. So she's missing a few parts right now, but we should have those back later this week to get ready for a race next weekend, just a shakedown at Sebring, kind of as a pre-testing for the year. So we also have some shop merchandise at winwithksr.com. And if you guys want to buy a shop shirt or any other stuff we got some hats, we've got some stickers, stuff like that. We appreciate everybody that's been buying stuff. It's been awesome to see the merchandise side pick up. Still a total shock to me. Like, this whole deal is still a total shock to me, to have as many people watching the channel and buying merchandise. And I can't wait to meet a lot of you guys at some of the events in 2021. Hopefully we don't have some of the drama that we had in 2020, and we can get back to having in-person events and hanging out with people again. Really looking forward to that. But for now, let's get to work. So during that last little time lapse, you may have recognized that I was cutting on more places than just the motor plate mounts. Seeing as how I was having some issues with the oil pan to steering joint interference, if I can make it better while we've got everything apart, why not go ahead and make it better? So what I have done is cut these mounts out. There was one in there, and there was another one sticking off the backside. If you imagine, our oil pan rail was right there, so going back is going to help that, but the pan is not going to completely get behind the steering rack. So I'm going to take it and just rotate it. Of course I want to set it a little tighter. So I'll rotate that down flat, or flatter, and now the oil pan will end up being up here even with it being lowered. So what I will do is make some new mounts for rotating the rack just a little bit, and then we will have the steering rack set up where it's not running the shaft right into the oil pan rail. And if engine ever gets changed later down the road to something bigger and wider, we won't have to go back in and redo the rack, hopefully. Well, anyways, let's get back to work on this thing. All right, everybody, so we're back at it again this morning, getting the motor secured in its new location. And basically I've got the car set up where it's level in the chassis. So we've leveled everything, and I use these little digital, so I wouldn't have to have the car completely level because you can hit the 0 button and level it wherever, but it's not hard to get the car level. And then we set the plane of the engine level, and then we can start making some mounts after we center it up left to right, which it's pretty close now. We're going to go up about 1/4 of an inch in the front, and now that everything clears, we should be good to go. The hood clears, the steering rack clears down there. It's a little snug. I could have maybe rotated the rack mount or background a little bit more, but we're going to do that and then get this thing secured in here and start throwing some wires in it. All right, so one other little trick that I do, right or wrong, something I've done for a little while, is center the engine through the whole entire car and the transmission. And to do that, I use freaking laser beams, which I don't know, are they even going to show up on camera? Okay, yeah, you can see it. So I got my little leveler deal. You see it hits basically right through the throttle body, right through the balancer screw, and then it's going down, goes down through the entire chassis. And we've centered the laser beam up throughout down the car in a couple of places. Now we've got the engine leveled. Now it's time to make some mounts. So, car's over in the lift, and the engine is relocated. You can kind of see what we did with the plates here. So originally, the mounting plates, instead of being back here, originally they were on the front side of this bar. And I put these on there so, you know, when they're taking the engine in and out, you can take these bolts loose. The engine doesn't fall anywhere, and then when you're putting it back in, you can kind of bring it in, drop it on the ledges, and then just push it back. It's kind of speeds things up a little bit, at least from my experience with having cars done like that before. And it'll do kind of the same. Basically, you'll sit it up on top of the transmission mount in the back, and then you just slide it in until it lands against the front plates. Put the, you can see how I've done the mid plate anchor right here. So it's a threaded tube insert right there that I machined to just fit a piece of tubing, and that goes down to the lower frame rails, which you can kind of see down there, I think. We're also going to triangulate out here so that it, you know, just has a good bit of triangulation. So before we move the engine back, I could stick my hand in here, wiggle it all around. And when I measured it, it was about 1 3/4 inches. And so now you can see we've got about 1/4 inch here. So we move the engine back about 1/4 inch and then down 3/4 inch. And now with the hood on, you can take this rag, slide it around. So it's close, but it's not touching on the throttle body. And yes, we've got a throttle body on here now, so that we make sure that it clears. Before the hood was kind of really tight all on this whole edge. Well, now I can slide about a finger in here now, and it still clears the throttle body. But we've got to make a steering shaft, stick the headers back in it, make a steering shaft, start bolting stuff on like the fuel pump. This is actually all going to come out one more time to paint everything once I finish welding. You can see once I finish welding the rest of the motor plate and the mid plate anchors, we'll take all this back out, paint it, and then reassemble it and start. I've got to weld some tabs for the brake lines, and then we'll be building a brake system and actually putting the engine in and leaving it. I'm also going to weld my coil brackets on tomorrow. They're going to be on the top piece of the top side of the valve cover here. I like to keep the coils on the valve cover. Got nice little short consistent plug wires, and it just makes everything where it stays kind of out of the way real nice. Everything's nice and compact on the engine instead of spreading the coils out somewhere way far away. We've got big long coil wires and more wiring to worry about, all that other stuff. So should be making a bunch of progress on this thing here in the next few days, and then see if we can get this thing up and going. So the hood fits, and for those of you that don't understand, like, that this is normal for race fiberglass stuff, that's totally normal for race fiberglass stuff. So that'll get, you know, it's got Zeus fasteners that go all the way around, and basically what had happened, the hood laying around the shop flat at Cletus's shop, it's just got a little bit of curve to it and it's taking some memory. Well, when this thing's driving down the road out in the sun, the hood will actually kind of take a set for the where this, when you put this on, it won't have quite that much to bend down, which, I mean, I'm barely pushing that down. So a little bit of fasteners there all the way around the hood. And let's see if we can get, let me see if I can get the camera set up in here. What do you see in camera? So now it's close, but you can see that this can easily be moved now. That's my kind of my test. That's, you know, easily 1/8 of an inch thick on the deal on the rag there. And yes, some of you guys had picked up that I didn't have a throttle body on it when I was testing before, but I kind of knew with the angle that roughly how much clearance I needed to clear the throttle body. But now it's got a throttle body on it with the V-band clamp that we're going to build off of the throttle body out to the turbos. All right, I had to show it with the headers on it, just to just to make one more little add-on to the video. So tomorrow we start wrapping up the steering shaft, maybe starting on a turbo kit. See? But thanks for everybody who's a subscriber, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and click the bell icon. Like I said, there's going to be quite a bit more of Mullet coming up the rest of this month and videos into February. Most of my videos are about a week behind typically on filming versus when they actually get put up on YouTube. It takes me a few days, you know, single dad life, half the year, or half of every week I've got my girls with me. So between running around picking them up from school and all that good stuff, I'm busy. I'm very, very busy. So it's gonna wrap this thing up for this video. I've got to get on the road for Sebring. So thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.